So hi, everyone. It might surprise you a little bit, but it turns out that I actually didn't always want to be an engineer or even an astronaut. And in fact, I actually grew up being trained to become a violinist instead. It wasn't until I met an astronaut in my junior year of high school when I realized I could become an engineer and completely changed my direction in life. So I want to introduce you to former NASA astronaut Joe Tanner, who has flown to space 4 times on the space shuttle. We met when I was a junior in high school, and I convinced my brother to let me attend his college course for the day. And I went with him to class to hear an astronaut speak, and that astronaut was Joe Tanner. Really, if it weren't for Joe, I never would have considered studying engineering, and I really don't think I would be doing what I'm doing today without it. So before I ask you some questions, I just first want to really say thank you. I think if it were not for you, I would not be here today, and your mentorship and friendship throughout this entire process is the reason I'm here. So,
well, thank you.
Thanks for being here.
And I remember that class. I was asked, it was a history class, and I was asked to be a guest speaker, and you showed up and you sat sort of in the back, I think.
Probably.
But you met me out in the hall after.
Yeah.
And I knew something right away was special about you, and that's where our friendship started.
Yeah. Okay, so first question. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I grew up, most kids don't know, and that's okay. And I didn't know, and that was okay. But I grew up during the 60s at the heart of the space race to get to the moon with the Soviets. And, of course, every kid wanted to be an astronaut, and I was no exception. Didn't know how to get there. And then by the time I was, we finally landed on the moon, I was already too tall to be an astronaut to fit in one of those capsules. So the dream sort of simmered for a little while, and when I got into college, I did a few things that unknowingly were the best thing that I ever could have done. One is engineering degree. That's why I encouraged you for an engineering degree, because your options are limitless with that degree. And then I got interested in flying, which led me to get into the Navy, which eventually led to the astronaut program.
Very cool. Were there any people in that process that were kind of pivotal in helping you go down that path?
Well, my dad, for sure, because he let me fly his airplane. I didn't even have to put gas in it. I just paid the instructor. So I got my private pilot's license for like $200, which is insane these days.
Yeah.
So, and he was always an encourager. And my older brother was in the Navy. My dad had been in the Navy. And so some of those barriers of joining the service had already been met by people in my family.
Was there like any point in that journey where you almost gave up on the dream of becoming an astronaut?
Well, the dream really didn't take solid footing in my thought process until I was about, 28 or so, 27, 28. The squadron that I was in at the time, one of the other pilots had just gotten selected into the first shuttle group of 1978.
Okay.
And I looked at him, I looked at me, and I said, well, he's got more credentials, but basically we're the same. And so I started to apply.
Okay.
And from that point on, my focus and goal was the astronaut program.
And how many times did you apply to become an astronaut?
5, over 12 and a half years.
Okay.
After my first application for the class of 1980, my package got taken out of the big stack for astronaut because I really wasn't qualified, and put into a stack of potential instructor pilots for NASA and Johnson Space Center. They wanted people with instructor time, which I had, jet time, which I had, and they liked Navy people, which I was. So I actually got interviewed for that job, and finally it took a while to get it because of some economic things in the country at the time. It took about 4 years, but I finally got that job and did it for 8 years.
Wow.
And it was a great job flying airplanes. But I never really gave up. I kept applying.
Yeah.
Got interviewed for the class of 1987 and didn't get selected. That was a hard one to swallow. And got interviewed again for the 92 class and made it.
Okay.
That's the oldest person ever selected.
How old were you when you were selected?
42.
Okay.
And that record has been shattered since.
That's great. Okay, so now for a couple fun questions.
All right.
What is it actually like to go to space?
Okay, there's 2 aspects, physical and emotional. The physical, the feeling of being weightless, and you're going to find out, is exactly like being underwater. And I tested that after 2 of my flights. As soon as I could get into a pool at the condo in Florida, I jumped in and I turned my brain off, closed my eyes, took a breath, and just let my body do whatever it wanted to do. And my brain says, you're back, because it feels exactly like that. Now, the emotional is way different. And your emotion on each flight flight, your first flight is going to be different than your subsequents. I hope that you have. The first flight, all you care about is getting there. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter who you're with. You just want, on the shuttle, you want the solid rocket boosters to ignite. You want that Falcon 9 to ignite. And that's all you care about. And you know the experience from people that have talked to you about it. You know what it's going to be like, but you don't know how it's going to be like for you. You don't know how your body's going to react. You don't know how your eyes and brain are going to react to the scenes that you're going to see. And so that is more of an important aspect, I think, than the physical. But you get into space and you say, wow, I'm really here.
Yeah.
Those are my eyeballs that are seeing the Earth. Those are my eyeballs that are looking out at the moon and the stars at night. Can't see them in the daytime, by the way. I told you that.
Yeah.
Yes. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful experience. You're going to have a blast.
So excited. What was your favorite?
Oh, one of my favorite questions, too. Now, almost everybody's favorite food is shrimp cocktail. Yeah. And, of course, that was a rehydratable food, which means you put water into it, let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes. What people liked about it most was not the shrimp so much, although shrimp was okay. It was kind of neat, kind of a treat. But the red sauce had horseradish in it.
Oh.
Now, you know about the physiology of space. You're going to feel congested, like you have a cold in your head and your sinuses. And that horseradish goes in there and cleans everything out and so forth. So manifest spicy kind of foods and maybe bring some Tabasco if you like Tabasco.
I'll make sure to ask some on that.
Yeah.
Did you have a launch playlist, and what was your favorite song?
We had wake-up music.
Okay.
We not, the Russians will play music. No, we don't.
Not
do that. No, I don't do that. Didn't do that. But we had wake-up music. So you sleep when the timeline tells you to sleep, and the timeline is a part of the flight plan, and you're going to have the same. And it says, okay, you got to go to bed at a certain time, and then you get up at a certain time. They try to give you 7 or 8 hours of sleep to wake us up. Although we were always already awake, they would play a piece of a song that was selected usually by the spouses.
Okay.
And then they would announce this particular song was selected for so-and-so on the crew for a reason maybe. And so that's the music. And then we played music when we were on orbit all the time, not out loud usually, though we did have a couple small speakers.
Okay.
Usually headphones. Started off with cassette players.
Yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah.
No. And then CDs, and then MP3 players and iPods.
Are there any songs that stand out to you?
Yeah. Well, I had my exercise songs. Most of the exercise it was on a bicycle ergometer, like a stationary bike. And so you wanted something with a nice beat to keep you. And then the other type I liked is things to listen to while you're looking out the window. And those, there were some spiritual songs that I really, really enjoyed. One album in particular. And my last rev or so in space that I had to my own doing on my last flight, I got up an hour and a half early. It takes an hour and a half to go around the Earth once. And I listened to that particular album. I got up on the flight deck over Japan, and I finished over Japan, went the whole rev.
Did you have a launch playlist, and what was your favorite song?
We had wake-up music.
Okay.
We not, the Russians will play music. No, we don't.
Not
do that. No, I don't do that. Didn't do that. But we had wake-up music. So you sleep when the timeline tells you to sleep, and the timeline is a part of the flight plan, and you're going to have the same. And it says, okay, you got to go to bed at a certain time, and then you get up at a certain time. They try to give you 7 or 8 hours of sleep to wake us up. Although we were always already awake, they would play a piece of a song that was selected usually by the spouses.
Okay.
And then they would announce this particular song was selected for so-and-so on the crew for a reason maybe. And so that's the music. And then we played music when we were on orbit all the time, not out loud usually, though we did have a couple small speakers.
Okay.
Usually headphones. Started off with cassette players.
Yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah.
No. And then CDs, and then MP3 players and iPods.
Are there any songs that stand out to you?
Yeah. Well, I had my exercise songs. Most of the exercise it was on a bicycle ergometer, like a stationary bike. And so you wanted something with a nice beat to keep you. And then the other type I liked is things to listen to while you're looking out the window. And those, there were some spiritual songs that I really, really enjoyed. One album in particular. And my last rev or so in space that I had to my own doing on my last flight, I got up an hour and a half early. It takes an hour and a half to go around the Earth once. And I listened to that particular album. I got up on the flight deck over Japan, and I finished over Japan, went the whole rev listening.
Do you have a favorite memory from when you were in space?
Many.
Is there one that stands out?
Two.
Okay.
One is the first time I looked at the Earth right after main engine cutoff. We were busy. I was the flight engineer backing up the pilot and the commander. And I said, "Hey guys, can I have a minute?" Unbuckled my seatbelt and I leaned back and looked out the overhead window, because you could look out the front, but you couldn't really see as much of the Earth as the overhead, because we were upside down. And so I looked down and I said, "I'm really here." So that's a great memory. We'll have it for the rest of my life. The other one was the first time I went outside on what they call a spacewalk. NASA speak, it's an extravehicular activity, or an EVA. And I came out to do work on the Hubble Space Telescope. And the first moment that I stuck my head out and got the rest of my body out of the airlock, I was outside. That's another memory that I'll hold forever.
I can picture it.
I hope so.
See how it goes. So I guess sometimes it just takes like a little nudge from somebody that you admire to really impact your life in some way, and your choices and your career trajectory, your life trajectory. Is there anyone in particular to you that stands out that helps inspire possibility for you?
For me,
yeah.
Actually, the squadron mate that I told you about that got selected in the 78 class was a really good mentor for me. And unfortunately, he's passed away a few years ago. But he was a shuttle commander and a good friend and encouraged me. I might have given up if he hadn't encouraged me. For my last application to the astronaut program, I wasn't going to put it in.
Really?
Yeah, and so encouragement can come from a number of different sources, okay? Now, my wife, Martha, was always encouraging.
Yeah.
And but I wasn't going to apply for the selection that I actually got picked up on, but my secretary said, "Why don't you go ahead? I mean, all they can do is say no." Well, I don't like no. We don't like to get rejected. So encourager and influence in your life doesn't have to be some superhuman person. It could be anybody who is on your side and ready to help you, reach the goals that you have for yourself.
That's so true. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking with me today. And I know I will absolutely be thinking about you as I watch.
Yeah, well, I want you to do me a favor when you go over, wave, okay?
Okay.
Wait, so,
every time?
Yeah, so we can see it.
Okay,
yeah,
very good. I will.
Thank you. God bless you.
And I guess last question in that theme is, what is your best advice for me?
Enjoy every minute. Don't take any minute for granted. Enjoy your crewmates. Look out the window as much as you can and play. Play with microgravity. And you can do that by maneuvering yourself, or you can do that with just, take a pair of scissors, for instance.
Yeah.
And open them up a little bit and then start it twisting. Yeah. And they won't do this. It won't do a regular spin. It'll go off axis and go back like that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm super excited to play with gravity.
Play with gravity. Lack of
gravity.
Mm-hmm. So my message to all the people that are watching this video is that if you want something, you have a goal in your life that you really want to achieve, keep trying, don't give up. If somebody says no the first time, okay, what changes can you make in your personal characteristics or your education or your experience, and then go out and do that, and then keep on trying, just don't give up. Perseverance is highly valued
in
this world.
It's great advice.